The theme for this session, focusing on people, striving for peace and a decent life for all on a sustained planet, is very pertinent. I am happy this topic is being discussed. I have always wondered why the elites in the different countries of the world do not see this. Who would lose if all the people on the globe led a decent life of having 2,000 to 2,500 calories per day for an adult person? Who would lose if all the people each day were getting enough calories to support their bodies? Who would lose if all the immunizable diseases that afflict people were immunized against? Who would lose if that one was achieved for all the people in the world that need immunization, for all the immunizable diseases got it? What would be the problem? Who would lose if all young people, children, accessed education to achieve literacy, numeracy, and skills as a minimum? Who would lose if all the human beings had a health unit within the radius of 5 kilometers from where one lives? Mr. President, Excellencies, I will not read my statement because I will then repeat what the other leaders have said. Instead, I will make 4 points. Point number 1, I thank President Obama for convening this special session of the Security Council to discuss this very important topic. Secondly, it is clear that the possession of nuclear weapons is the main cause of other countries wanting to acquire nuclear weapons. It is not logical to say that a few of us should possess nuclear weapons and others should not. I'm therefore very pleased to hear that some of these countries which have nuclear weapons are saying that they are aiming at getting rid of all the nuclear weapons. Action leads to reaction. Reaction leads to counter-reaction. So if you look at the history, how did it all start? Germany wanted nuclear weapons to dominate the world with those weapons. The United States beat Germany to those weapons first. They used them. Then Soviet Union had to acquire the weapons in order to balance the United States. Then China, and so on. So you can see that the main cause of nuclear proliferation is actually the possession of those weapons. Number 3, the NPT is based on 3 principles which I think are very good: non-proliferation, disarmament, and peaceful use of nuclear energy. Now, finally, I want to inform this Security Council that Africa is interested not in nuclear weapons, but in nuclear energy. The reason we're interested in nuclear energy is that if you take all the rivers in Africa, the total capacity of the hydropower there is about 300,000 megawatts. We are going to be 1.3 billion Africans by 2020. Now, if you take the United States, who are only 300 million people, they are now using 1 million megawatts. But all the rivers in Africa have got a potential of only 300,000 megawatts. Even if all the sites on the African rivers were developed, we would not have enough electricity to support the Africans. Unless, of course, you say that it has been scientifically proved that Africans don't need electricity.
Allow me introduce the father of our region, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of Uganda. That is the old man always in a heart.
There's no other person who's committed to African unity, especially East African Union. I call it union because I don't know whether we want a federation. But in any case, today, President Museveni is the most popular leader in this federation.
By 1900, the whole of Africa had been colonized, except for Ethiopia. This was a big shame to Africa, and it was all due to the political fragmentation of Africa in small kingdoms and chiefdoms. Some of the traditional leaders tried to fight to preserve their independence. They were, however, not coordinated, and they were defeated one by one.
The pro-people ideology is something which I think that the NRM government, if you read that 10-point program, you can see that they have interest on the people. It was based on the people. Good standard of living, economy, democracy, human rights. That people are very important. Then the idea of unity of Ugandans. So today when you are talking about patriotism, Pan-Africanism, you are just capturing those ideas, the ideas of the 10-point program. Yes.
For Musei, I think because of his experience leading people, the peasantry, he came from that background of people with really, close to nature, and then he had to live with them and teach them how to emancipate themselves, and taught them how to fight, and taught them, and he's a teacher, I think. He's a teacher naturally, and he has that unique ability to get into, to understand quickly what you are trying to tell him or where you are coming from, and be able to help you, get to where you want to go.
Taking Uganda as an example, our society at that time was a pre-capitalist, mainly non-money one, using barter trade, and comprised of three social classes: the feudalists, the artisans, and the peasants. By 1962, at independence, this pre-capitalist economy and society had somewhat metamorphosed into a typical enclave colonial economy with a small island of modernity that had entered the money economy, surrounded by a sea of backward subsistence economic activities that only catered for food and no cash.
Now you see, if you don't learn from history, you repeat the mistakes. So I think the NRM, they learned the lessons from what had happened. They knew the reasons why they were fighting against the system, and you can say, I don't know what to say, that whether they benefited, but because if you don't make a mistake, mistakes make you learn fast. So they knew very well where the problems are. They analyzed the problems, and they were able to provide good solutions.
So people already knew that this was a different group. This is a different army. This is a different government. The soldiers actually don't attack people, they help people. So there was that. Secondly, we created institutions, human rights, the Commission of Inquiry into the human rights violation, so that whoever has a complaint, instead of avenging, taking vengeance, you report to the Human Rights Commission that investigates, and so on. Then there was unity, because we were preaching that what caused the problem in Uganda was sectarianism of tribes, of religion. Now we are preaching unity of everybody. We are returning the Kabaka. We are returning the properties of Asians that we are taken. So all these programs gave confidence to the population.
With the clear-headed ideology of the NRM, we had correctly diagnosed the problem of Uganda. Philosophically and strategically, the main mistake was to emphasize identity, religion, tribe, and gender chauvinism, instead of emphasizing interests such as markets where you sell your products, security, infrastructure, etc.
I remember 1985, I traveled, my mother died and we had to go to Rukunjiri for burial. We actually had to sleep in Mbarara because the journey was just way too long. We left here very early in the morning, got to Mbarara in the middle of the night, spent a night in Mbarara, then traveled again in the morning. From here to Rukunjiri now is 5 hours. That's an incredible change. And you hear these stories again and again. Moving here to Karamoja right now, you can drive this time, 4 o'clock. You'll be in Moroto maybe about 8 o'clock. That's an incredible thing that has happened. So I think you see it all around us.
I think the biggest achievement of this government has been tremendous development in infrastructure. I have never seen such a network. Now you are connected from Kampala to every headquarters of the district, every corner, tarmac. Now that is incredible. It's incredible and a tribute to the leadership because it was not there and this has been done.
We designed this system not from the air-conditioned rooms, but from the jungles of our country, where we lived with the people in their huts in those days for much of the 16 years of the resistance, 1971 to 1986. If you discount the student years where again we interacted closely with the masses.
I think this is something that we can, nobody can, claim it or say that they all had this and anybody can rule and anybody, no. That one, I think we are all called differently, and him, he was called and he dropped whatever he had, which was very important to him, and went for that. Because when I think about even in Tanzania, he never used to be, he would be organizing here, he would be sneaking in the country, he would be organizing groups to take for training, he would be talking to Marimu, talking to the leaders of the time in Mozambique. So he was always busy on something.
It is not a secret. President Museveni became politically active very early. At a very early age, I think in high school, and continued through his days. I think he got even more fired and matured in Dar es Salaam University. Did not only do that, he keeps on telling us, or whoever wants to listen, when other students went for vacation, he would go the other way to learn how Frelimo is doing their thing, how they are managing the war, how they are managing the population in the liberated areas, resupply, treatment of prisoners of war, the whole effort. So he was an interested individual, and as you know, as I know, I don't know how much you know about him, but I know him as a very, very careful individual, deliberate individual.
The fact that this 35-6 years of peace has happened here in this country, which was not manageable at all. It had divides of sectarianism, of killings, extrajudicial and so on, but he managed to pull it together and make this country a state that has stood this long. We have exported peace everywhere we go.
The NRA and UPDF took that as a priority because it was a major problem here. The misuse of power, military power, not even political, misuse of power by the army in all these regimes. Detaining people anyhow, shooting. So I think that as you learn lessons, you must build policies and institutions to rectify the mistakes of the past.
It didn't come from reading a book or a manual. It is the individual, Mr. Museveni, his aspirations, the ideas of where he would like liberty, a free and liberated people should go, that brought to bear on what he infused in us and we infused in those that came behind us to what we are seeing today.
That's why I say, to me, this is the journey of President Museveni. For each one of us that can identify, we've built houses, lived in them, we have planted crops, we eat of them. Because of the journey of the NRA, NRM, and the president who has stabilized this nation for us to do that.
We built this system for our people. We neither seek nor need any approbation from anybody outside Uganda, except our peers in the African Union and NEPAD, to whom we are linked by African brotherhood, solidarity, and shared values based on mutual respect.
Those of us who remember where this country came from say we should thank Museveni. He has done a lot. He has brought this country a long way. A long way. People of this country don't know where this country came from. They don't know, especially the youths. They are not looking at where the country came from. They are looking at it here now.
One of the qualities that we have had in Uganda, or the advantages, is stability, constitutional stability, political stability in the country. Because we were having presidents for 60 days to 1 year, and don't have any 60 days. Presidents were coming and going like that. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for African countries.
Well, I think we have done well. We have done well because the patriotism, we have done very well. Pan-Africanism, we have done very well. The socio-economic transformation, we've done extremely well. Yes. Democracy, we've done very well. Yes. But of course, the problem is bringing everybody on board to understand. Because of course we are working against a bigger force of imperialism. And they use part of us to undermine what we are doing. So that is the only problem. And that's why there is a danger of our young people not being able to see what we saw and forced us to go to the bush to fight, take up arms, and suffer and die in order Uganda to be free. That's the biggest problem, especially the young.
I doubt very much that there are many comparable pro-people democratic structures in the world. These people are sitting here. They are not a story. They are human beings. They are all here. It is therefore quite comic and laughable to hear of some actors in the world giving just lectures about democracy. You give me a lecture about democracy? What are your own credentials?
He knew from the beginning what he wanted to see in this country. And he's still the same man. I admire him for one thing, steadfastness in the face of opposition. You know, sometimes people do not understand what you are trying to do. And sometimes even you have genuine and most dedicated effort. Some people will call you names. And if you are faint-hearted, you may throw up your hands and say, after all, I was doing it for them.
The African race must have a center of gravity. There are smaller countries in the world. However, many of them have centers of gravity. You have got smaller countries in Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Denmark, small countries. But they have got centers of gravity. USA is the center of gravity for the West Europeans. It is their center of gravity. When they're in trouble, it is the one which rescues them. When Hitler wanted to take them over, and after had taken them over, who rescued them? The USA and somebody else, whom they don't talk about now. Russia for the Balkans. The Slavic nations of Eastern Europe have the center of gravity in Russia. China for the Far East. India for South Asia. Where is the economic and strategic center of gravity of the African race? Where is it?
If you could give one message to the youth of Uganda, what would that be?
That would be to search for God. I think that every human being, if they can find God, they then can find themselves. If our young people can know God and have a relationship with Him, they can know who they are, they can know their purpose in life, and through God's leading, they would find that purpose and fulfill it. That's my prayer. Because without God, you are lost in the world. You think you are looking for yourself, but you really can't find yourself until you find God. Because it is God who created you and gave you a purpose even before you were in your mother's womb. And so if you find Him and have a relationship with Him, He will guide you to your purpose and enable you to fulfill it. That is my prayer for all people, but especially the young generation.
The 4 economic sectors where their jobs and wealth are: commercial agriculture, Emu, with the Chivaro, Chura, Aymar, Otita, counting profitability, industries, services, and ICT. With your individual savings, collective savings by groups, borrowing from banks, or with government support, you should enter one or more of these sectors so as to chase poverty from your homesteads, create wealth and jobs for some of your family and also for others. I thank you and I wish you good luck.